what's up everybody? So I said I'm going to do a retouching video on one of Kim's photos we did with the autumn portrait shoot. So I just want to do that now. I'm filming this in my room and I couldn't set up on this side and I'm left-handed, so you can't really see the tablet I'm working on. But it's one of the cheap ones. It's a Wacom tablet, it's the really cheap one. And mainly because I want it small. And I only use, you can see, I don't know if you can see, but it's very worn here, but this is the only piece I use, about 2 centimeters of space. I'm going to show you how to go from this image to that image quite quickly. Not a lot of retouching involved. I'm not going to do in-depth retouching. I'm just going to enhance. I'm going to do a little bit of skin, and then I'm going to do dodging and burning, which is the main part that I think retouching is. So here we are in Photoshop. You can see there's some skin we got to retouch, some blotchiness, and then maybe dodge and burn a bit. There's no distractions in the background, which I would usually remove if there was like a pole or something. There's like a stray hair or two, which is not too hard to fix. And then yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to it, but I'm going to show you my basic run through. If you want to know how I made my actions and how to do frequency separation, I will show you how to do that as well. But for now, let's just get this done. So first off, if you push Z, you've got your zoom tool, and if you click, you can kind of go in and out, left and right. So that's it's called scrubby zoom. So you click this thing up here, and then it will allow you to do this, as long as your graphics card will allow it. So it's kind of easier to just go Z, and then I push spacebar and then move it around. So if I want to get really close and then check the image, then I would do this. So we're gonna have to fix some of the skin, frown lines, stray hairs, and then maybe up a little bit of the contrast. So first things first, I would go click here, and then I've made this as an action. I can show you what it does. So those are all the adjustments it's doing. Instead of me doing each one every time, I just click play, and then it will kind of put the layers down for me and then work backwards from there. So very easy to do. I can show you how to do that. This is not something I downloaded or anything, it's just something I learned how to do so that you can save a few minutes on editing. Also, it gets done to every image. So these are all colors and so on. Let me run it and show you. Okay, so here's everything. So basically this is a darkening layer. So midtones are going down. If you want to, let me show you. So it's just a curve. I've dropped the mids a bit. So that's all it's doing. Okay, this is a warming layer, so it's just making it a bit more orange. This is a little bit of vibrance, very little bit of vibrance, only +5, and then a little bit of brightness and contrast. But these aren't really that important, but I've put them there. So basically this one I use to just separate her from the background a little bit. So we've masked it with white, so it's showing. Then what we'll do is we're going to take the brush and we're going to use black to paint off the areas that we don't want. So we're going to go over her, go over her hair, I'm going to go over arm. Okay, so very quick, don't have to be too precise. So if you want to see what it did, that's the background just going a bit dimmer. Because we shot with flash, the background is already a bit underexposed. I'm going to take out some of the darkening on the highlights as well. And I mean, this is not that important unless your background is a bit too bright, because it's only affecting the wide area. So very little. This is the warming, so if it's too warm I could drop this, but I think that's kind of good. This, you can just drop this a little bit, or you can make it more orange, but that's up to you. So I like to have it about there. This one I'll also drop a little bit. Okay, so that's that. Then I'll flatten. Let me just undo that. If you go on this layer, on any proper layer, not an adjustment layer, and you right click and you say flatten, it will take everything that's there and squash it together. Now a lot of people don't do this because you can't really go back there after a few steps. So don't do it if you're not sure, but I do this process all the time, so I know I've done what I needed to on those. So you can do that, or you can say merge. The problem with merge is if this is unlocked and you merge, if you merge visible, it puts it in a layer, but it's not a background layer. So when you save, sometimes you'll save by accident and it wants to make it a Photoshop document, and that's the problem. I like to have it saved as JPEG so that I can save and exit, so it's quicker. I don't always save these files unless the the client needs them. So we'll maybe keep it in this format, but we usually don't. So we do this and we flatten. And flatten, there's no real shortcut for it, but if you go into settings, you can do it. I can show you how. I'll maybe make another video. But I basically made it go Control-Alt-1, and then that'll flatten it. And I do that after every process of what I'm doing. So that's the first part. Second part, Control-J, or you can right-click, duplicate. Just so you're never working on the one, so there's always a delete function. You can go back quite quickly. So Control-J, so we're going to work on the duplicate. This is for skin retouching. There's a few ways you can do it. I use the patch tool, explain why. You can use the healing brush if you don't want to be too complicated. You can kind of just spot heal and click wherever you want to be, and that'll kind of clean it up quite well, unless you're trying to do weird big areas. So unless you're doing really huge areas, this will work great. But I mean, you're going to be here all day. Okay, and then you've got the healing brush, which is if you sample, so you hold Alt, you sample, so it's going to take this texture, and then you can put it where you need it, which is what I used to do. So you just keep sampling near that area. The spot healing brush kind of like chooses an area for itself. I don't know, it works okay. But recently I've started using the patch tool. So the reason for that is I can do bigger areas. So basically you take that area, say you want that line gone, and then you just drag it to an area that looks better and you let go. And then that'll instantly fix it. I think I must duplicate again just so you can see. So say this is all problem area, so we do this. Then we do this. Then we do this. Then we do this. Right, and then instead of going little bit, you can kind of clean it up quite quickly. Obviously, it's not the best method, but it's quick and it's good. So you'll never have a hard edge around it because it feathers out the edges. As long as you sample the right place, like don't try to clean this up and put that there because it's going to look funny. Sample this and then take something near it. So if you do this and you put it there, it's going to give you a funny texture. But if you do this and you put it just underneath, you get better textures. So you do this a few times. Don't be too stressed out about how you're doing it. I'll show you now why. And then that's a long line. I wouldn't do it in one go. I would kind of do it in little bits. It just makes it easier for Photoshop to decide what's a good texture. I'm going to take this hair out. Make this hair out. Yep. Okay, so you can quite easily see what that did, and we did that quite fast. If it was a very important image for like a magazine or something, you could spend a bit more time on it and zoom in really close and make sure it's right. But we're going to do this. I'll show you now why. We're going to fix up the last bit of tone at the end. Don't worry about blotchiness. This is kind of only affecting texture. So if your shot's out of focus, it's not going to work so well. But it's affecting texture. It's not affecting the tone too much. I'll show you how we're going to fix it later. Just going to go through this. I'm not going to clean up every little dot because, I mean, people are people and we don't want a plastic-looking image. It's just the very unflattering stuff she couldn't help. Like if it was a bad skin day and you fixed it, don't remove scars and moles and things that are important to the person. Sometimes the image just needs a little bit of tweaking so the client and the model can look the best. Do this some more. Yeah, some more. Don't worry about tones that are not matching. We can fix that later. Okay, so the best part is dodging and burning. I mean, I think that's the most important part of retouching, just to give it that different type of pop. I explained to you why now and why it takes a bit of practice. We could remove these two hairs I'm going to try with the same technique. So you just sample and pull. I mean, sometimes you'll do it and the computer will kind of get it wrong and it'll give you a funny texture. But Photoshop's become pretty decent and it kind of guesses quite well. I mean, that was like really fast, and you'll see the hairs were there, now they're not there. We also might have to fix this pink in her hand because it's not the same tone. It was quite cold. Okay, so that's what we've done. Boom, boom. Very little. You probably won't even tell unless you were this close. So that's before, after, before, after. Yep. Okay, so we've cleaned it. We're not going to fix the background. We're just going to flatten this. So that's the skin. I'm going to go in and fix her hand. It's not too noticeable until you close, but this little pink area, you kind of need to get that away. So there's a few ways to do it. You can do it with a hue layer. You can do it with selective color. You can do it with levels and stuff if you want, but this is the easy way. So we use this one. Hue is probably the easiest. So you select this, then you select reds, because I mean, red, orange, pink, sometimes just off cream, they all come up as a red channel. We're gonna push this all the way up, so you'll see it selecting like all kinds of reds. And then this is the thing here. So you're gonna make this smaller, right? And then this smaller. This is the range. So if you get it really small, and then this really small, right? Then all you do is you're going to click in the middle. Oh, if I can get it right. You know, drag to the side until it highlights the part that's the problem. So it's about that tone of red, right? Okay, now we found it. Now we take this and we make it 0 again. And then what we're going to do is you're going to add blue to it. Okay, so I would just go, yeah, then I would highlight the 0. Highlight the 0 and then push up on the keypad and you'll see it will change, right? So now if you turn this off and on, you can see what it did. So that pinkness is gone. You'll also see it affects the left and the right of the scarf here. So you can see the scarf is changing color too, but I mean, you can mask that out again. So all we do is you go back and then this white layer, you just paint black on the area you don't want. So the black's always going to take away it. So I'm going to put it here, put it here. Okay, it's probably not something very important that you need to fix, but we do. Sometimes this affects the lips as well, but the lips are kind of covered, so that's what we fixed. Okay, selective color, you can do it as well. All you do is you go into red, and then you add, but you can't be as specific with the type of one you're selecting. It's kind of going to do it to all, and then you paint it over. So I'll do that next time, but this is the best way. So we flatten, and then, okay, so lastly, we're going to do frequency separation. So if we can find it. So this is another action you need to make. You can't only make it once. It's such weird numbers. You can. I'll do one on it. It's just a certain numbers you got to do. Then this is high frequency. This is low frequency. This is basically the tones of the image. This is the texture. So if you look at it, if I put them both off, that's the image as is. If I turn this on, it's going to put just blurry stuff. So that's just blurry. It's just tones. If I add this, it's texture. So now it's back to what it was. So if you show just this and with it, it's the same image because this is the opposite of that. Okay, so if you do anything on this image, it won't affect that image. And if you do anything on this one, it won't affect that one. So if you do anything on the tones, it's not going to mess with the skin tone, with the pores and everything. So all you're going to do is you're going to blend this one to fix blotchiness, and you're going to mess with this one to fix skin. So say these lines under our eyes are too harsh, and you kind of want them softer. So all you're going to do is you can either use the stamp tool, sample this part that's a bit softer, and then paint over this, right? And that'll soften it with a different texture, which I won't always do. What I would normally do is I would put a mask on it, take the black, and then with a really soft brush, I'll make this 7 again, like it's supposed to be 7, and I'll make this 10, right? I'm going to paint black, just here. Maybe that's too soft. Let's do 50. Right, and this is basically softening the image on just that spot where I'm painting. Okay, if you want to see. So it softened it a little bit. I won't do it too much because then you're going to lose detail. But it does help to do it a little bit on just very, very problem areas. So I usually don't even do this step, I kind of skip it. But for interest's sake, that's what that's for. The frequency separation, the main thing I use is the tones so that I could do the blotchiness, fix the blotchiness on the skin. I mean, texture is texture, you need texture on a person's skin. So what we want to do is you're going to take this one, we're going to take, you can do it with a mixer brush, it works quite well. You do it with a mixer brush, it works quite well, but I just use a regular brush, I'll show you why. What we do is we take a normal brush, make sure it's very low, so 7 on flow, and then this can be quite high, mainly because of what pressure sensitivity on, so I'll put it on 50, and then what you're going to do is you're going to sample a color, so say this color, and then softly brush it over the tones that are not matching so well, so like that. Like that. As long as it's lighter than the tone you're going over, it works quite well. Like that. If it's too much, then just sample a darker color, and that'll help. So there we go. Here's some more. Try and clean up this a bit. It's just got to be very minor, otherwise you will notice that you did it. So that was quite quick, but that's what we fixed. So we just blended it a little bit. Okay, and then this is dodging and burning. So there's a lot of methods, there's even tools for it, but they don't work so well. So all you do is you make a 50% grey layer. So you make a new layer. You go shift backspace, 50% grey. You fill it. And then you turn it into overlay or soft light. Overlay is just stronger than soft light. And then on this layer you just paint black or you paint white. And white will make it higher, lighter, and then black will make it darker. And that's pretty much all it is. So let me just delete this one. So I have two. I have a soft light and I have an overlay. Mainly because this one I use for skin and then this one I use for everything else. Because everything else can be a bit more like darker tones, and then the skin I'm a bit more gentle with. So I'll start on this one and take my brush, make sure it's black and white, so push D, it'll go to default. Then I put my brush on 50, maybe I'll even do it higher, 80. And then we're going to just darken some stuff. So we darken the tree here. We're going to darken some of the shadows in her hair. Also, make sure it's a soft brush. So if you right click here, just make sure it's all the way down here. You don't want a hard one to make funny edges. So anything that's kind of a shadow or a bit of a grey that you want darker, you just paint over it. I'm not going to do like too fussy about this. I'm going to do this quite quick. I'll do a longer one if you want, but basically you can even do this quite a big one. Oh, and then to make this smaller and bigger, you kind of use the bracket keys here on the right hand side, and it'll make it bigger and smaller. So my hands mainly there all the time, and then my thumbs for the hand tool. So there's dodging, burning. Let's go over this a bit. It basically it creates contrast. So if you didn't shoot it with flash, it'd be less contrast. But because there's a flash hitting here and then this is shadow, it's kind of already got contrast. But it still helps to do this. So you can kind of reshape light and reshape faces a little bit. Not too much, but you can. Now this is the part that takes practice, because this is essentially like drawing. So if I gave you a flattish looking image that I half sketched, I said finish it, you'd have to enhance the tones that make up the shadows and the highlights and stuff that makes it look three-dimensional, right? So say we got, this was a flat image, and now we're trying to just like finish it off, so making final touches to it. So if you know how shadows and light work, then you'll know where the shadows are. So if this is highlighted, that's got to be shadow, and this has got to be shadow because the arm's blocking this light. So I mean, you can play with it a bit. You don't have to do it even correctly, it will still look cool. But basically that's it, and then you push X, that'll swap it to white, and then you do some of the highlights, and you can do this for hours, and the more you do it, the better it will look, unless you overdo it. But I'll show you how to drop that at the end. So we just put some highlights in. Just have fun with it. Also, you don't have to do this as much. I like to do it too, like this looks cool because of the leather shine. You'd be really fast, you'd zoom in and do every little bit, but I'm not going to do it for this image. Depending on what the client wants, how polished of an image they want, you can spend a lot of time on this. It can take you hours. In a general sense, it takes about 20-30 minutes if you spend a good amount of time on a whole image. It can take way longer if you actually work on it for much longer. So okay, so that's the close. You can see a big difference. So there you go, before, after. So that's just shadows and highlights. Maybe we should do the background a bit. Also make the highlights pop quite well. Right, now let's do some of the hair. She's got nice blonde, like a white blonde hair, which really works well. So all the highlights, you kind of brush over it a little bit. Some areas you can do a bit more than others. Okay, and the best part about a mask is if you mess up, for one, if you've done this too much and you want to kind of go backwards, you kind of can't. But with a mask, you can kind of just paint away the area you didn't want. So say we did that too much. So maybe you made it too white. Then you can just put a mask on this, and then take black, and then black, and then paint it off again, and then it'll take away what you just did to it. Oh, we don't want to do that. So what we want to do is just want to drop this down a bit. So we're going to make this like 80. You almost always drop it down because you kind of always overdo it. Yeah, a bit less than that even. Okay, and then I'm also going to do her eyes, which always works well. Just don't do too much, otherwise it won't look real. So the highlights in her eye. I wouldn't do the darks too much. This line right above her eye also helps. And then part of the white, don't do too much of it. It's going to make it look a bit surreal. Okay. While you're doing it, kind of looks like nothing's happening, but if you check before and after, you really know something's happening. So, do the nail a bit. And jewelry works well. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to do the skin. This part just got to be very gentle with, because the darker you make it, the more you burn it, basically, the more red it's going to get, especially if it's already red. So you got to be very gentle with it. Otherwise, you got to come in later and fix the red like we did earlier with her hand. So this is the part that's going to make it look really cool. So if you can get the shadows right. Yep. And then do the highlights. Don't overdo it. Be very selective. So look at what we did to the hand. So it looked quite flat, and then instantly it looked quite dark. And if you knew the shadow was on the left-hand side and the highlight was on the top, then you can kind of like do this exactly like you would sketch. So if you're not good at sketching, this might be a bit harder. But if you kind of know what you're doing, you can really work it and make it look really 3D. And you also fix a bit of the skin tone problem. I don't want to do this too much. So that's that. We're going to go around the eyes a bit. We highlight the makeup a bit, which makes it stand out nice. We do it here a little bit. We do above a cheekbone. Okay, and then kind of the light is kind of right in the middle to the right hand side. So we do this. We drop down some of the shadows, make it look nice and round. Also, if you know of contouring for makeup, this jawbone is very important, so highlight that a bit. See if we can shape it a bit more. Maybe that shadow is a bit too much, but we'll see. So this is before and after. Okay, and then all you do is drop the opacity a bit on the layer, just so that it's not as big of a change. And then yeah, I mean it's done. So having a good image is step one, but then you can always make it look better. And then what I like to do is just drop the blacks a little bit, and that'll really finalize the image. So you can do it with this. So you're gonna move this one a little bit, that's the highlights. You move this one a little bit down, and that's the shadows, and it'll just make the blacks blacker. And it kind of just makes it look like a very polished off image. And then flatten it. The last thing you do is you can sharpen. So I've made this, and that'll just sharpen all the edges of it. Let me show you how to do that quickly. So what you do is you duplicate, you go to filter, you go to other, you go to high pass, and then you basically choose a good range, but one kind of works, and then you put it to soft light. Overlay is going to be harsher, so you put soft light, and then that basically sharpens all the edges. So let me show you. So it will sharpen all the edges a little bit. All right. And then you flatten, and then I just save, so because it's already locked on the background, Control Shift S, and then I override the one that I'm working on because that's the one I'm going to give the client. I don't keep the other ones, I have a backup of it always. If you want to see the workflow of how I do things, then we can do that as well. I'm going to pull in the unedited shot, if I can get to it. So here's the unedited shot. So that's what it looked like before, and that's what it looks like after, with kind of really quick means. Okay, well, thanks for watching. If you like this, I'll do some more of that. I can go more in depth as well, if you like. But yeah, this is what I did with Kim, and it was kind of a simple shoot, and it was kind of simple editing, but it comes out really cool. So let me know what you think. If you liked it, comment. If you click the like button, subscribe, show your friends. Let us know what you think. Email us. We love to hear from you guys. And then if you want to know all the gear I used and how I used it, I can also do a video on that and then show you each bit. But basically, that's about it. I'll do another one of these gladly if you really want me to. And then, yeah, see you next time.